Track is brought to you by Olin Breweries and the Maritime Harness Racing Track Operators.
Once again, and welcome to another edition of At the Track. And this afternoon, we hope our show is both informative and entertaining. Our feature race will come from Champlain Raceway at the Hotel Beausejour Pace. We'll also have a talk with the winning driver from the Atlantic Sire Stakes for 3-year-old pacing colts. That was Sunday at Truro. And among our features will be an interview with one of the few women drivers in harness racing in Atlantic Canada. Here's Greg Dennis with Patsy Gaudette.
Women can do almost anything a man can when it comes to a job, but it's a lot of hard work. I figure it's a man's sport, but I do it and I like it.
29-year-old Patsy Gaudette of Moncton has turned a hobby into a full-time job. Now, a career as a harness racing driver was likely the last thing on her mind when Gaudette was a child. But it was back then, in her formative years, when her father kindled the passion.
He had an old mare he used to look after, and he used to bring me and my little sister. I used to go with him to jog the horse. Just kept coming and learning, and eventually I learned to jog myself. Got to train horses later, and now I'm doing it for my life. So.
How old was this when you first learned?
When I first started jogging by myself, I guess I was about 7 years old. And I started training, I guess, when I was about 12. And I've been training ever since. I started driving when I was 18, and been driving ever since. It's about all I know what to do. I don't know how to be secretaries or anything like that. No, that's not my thing. I just enjoy it out here. You're out in the fresh air all the time. And there's not really, you're your own boss. Like if I feel like taking an hour off, I take an hour off. I just work away at it. It gets done in a day.
Okay. Can you make a lot of money at this?
Not in the Maritimes, no. No, we're not racing for enough money to charge the owners a lot of money because, I mean, if they're going to go in the hole, they're just going to get out of it.
4 minutes after me, chose 4 minutes remaining.
Patsy Gaudette is one of only a handful of female drivers on the maritime harness racing circuit. She's been doing it the longest, and she's probably the best. The number of ladies involved is low, she says, not because of discrimination. The sport itself is physically demanding, and it requires tremendous strength.
Well, it's really a man's sport because, for instance, now I have a quiet horse to drive, but there are horses that aren't very quiet. They pull a lot, and you got to have quite a bit of strength, like to be able to control a horse, and you can run into trouble if you lose control of your horse in a race.
Gaudette races the Critic, a good-looking 6-year-old owned by Dr. Austin Delaney. Before this night, the Critic hadn't won a race all year. But on this night, when heavy rains turned the Champlain Raceway track into a quagmire, the outcome would be different.
They're off. That's the Critic with the lead.
The Critic is number 1 with the red blinders and Patsy Gaudette in the bike.
Alan Fantastic on the move, racing 3. Daly's Alert is on the rail, moving 4. It along the rail. That's Harborview Beamer racing 5 as they go to the turn. Race on by the opening 8. BJ Eldorado on the rail in 6. They swing round the turn now for the opening quarter with Alan Fantastic out in front, battling for the lead with Simon Midwatch on the inside. They're round the turn now, swing on by the opening quarter in 32-1. Off the turn, they move down the stretch in front of the stand for the first time. Alan Fantastic on the outside, on the inside of racing 2, and now taking command once again. That's Simon Midwatch, the Critic on the rail 3. Daly's Alert is racing 4. Harborview Beamer is moving 5. They go to the turn. BJ Eldorado in 6. Max Storm 7. Stormaway GB racing 8, and the trailer is Horton's Blaze in the turn now for the half mile. Simon Midwatch at the half, 1:04.1. They swing to the back stretch for the final time. Out in front, Simon Midwatch, a length and a half. The Critic on the rail 2. 3 wide now. Harborview Beamer is third in along the rail. Daly's Alert racing 4. Alan Fantastic 5 between horses. 6 and moving up on the outside. BJ Eldorado, Max Storm 3 wide is 7 on the outside. outside. They go to the turn. Storm away, GB8 and the trailer is Horton's Blaze in the panic turn. They go on by the 3/4 and 1:36 and 1. The Critics up on the outside by a half length. Simon Midwatch racing 2 and up on the outside. Harborview Beamer moving 3. BJ Eldorado racing 4 at the 7/8 now. A swing on home. The Critic on the outside. Simon Midwatch, Harborview Beamer up on the outside. BJ Eldorado and Max Storm is on the move. That's the Critic and Harborview Beamer. They come to the wire. The Critic and Harborview Beamer, and at the wire it's going to be close. So they are in 2:09.
An exciting finish to a great race. The Critics' first win of 1986. Maybe it was the muddy conditions. Maybe it was the presence of our cameras. Patsy Gaudette's next goal is to bring the Critic in with a winning time under 2 minutes. Continued good luck to one of the Maritime's finest drivers. For At the Track, I'm Greg Dennis.
With the closure of Sackville Downs, there had been worry around the maritime breeding circles that the prices for yearlings at various sales in the fall would be low. But once again, it has been proven that quality will bring top price. Co-chairman of the Select Sale in Halifax, Doug Harkness, passed along the word that the highest price pacing filly and the highest price pacing colt both went at his sale. Paul Menya was there. He has the story of the Select Sale.
The Select Sale.
I know that it can be press time and you people are kind of worried and concerned, but my gosh, we're way wrong when I'm asking you even to start at $1,000. But I'll take 500 to start.
You couldn't fault Cliff Chapman. When it comes to auctioning standard breds, there's no one better. The stock looked pretty good. So why these figures? In 1985, the average price was $3,300. This year, the average price paid was a disastrous $1,900. The average price paid for colts was $2,200, hardly the price of bringing one into the world. The gross revenue figure tells more. This year, 69 horses brought in $125,000. Last year, 18 fewer horses, $43,000 more money. Not everyone was complaining. Dr. Robert Webster of Charlottetown got the top price for a filly, the $7,000 paid for Island Intrepid, a bay filly by Curtis Hanover, the fastest son of Albatross.
I was really scared that she might go for $2,000 or $2,500, something like that, and she ended up where I thought she should be. I only own half of this mare. H.B. Willis owns the other half. He hoped we'd get 7,000, and we hit 7,000 right in the nose, so I'm quite happy, real happy.
The buyer, Burton Cormier of New Brunswick.
She's a good-looking mare, and she's well put up and everything, so she looks good. Hoping for the Rodman for next year.
The tone for the sale was set early. Bidding was slow and low.
With the track closed in a heavy populated area like Metro Halifax, the owners are reluctant to bid on horses when they're not sure if they're going to be able to race them or not in Metro Halifax. There's lots of racing. There's lots of stake money out there, and there'll be a race for next year. But at the moment, I'm sure the consigners who have raised these horses and brought them here, many of them are disappointed. And well, they should be.
Do you think you got a pretty good deal on it?
Hope so. That remains to be seen.
I think you get one hell of a bargain. I was going to start her off at $2,500, but the prices are going so low that obviously if I was going to start her off at $2,500, I should have left her in the stall here. So you get a good deal. You get a good mare.
About the only reason given for this year's poor sales was the closure of Sackville Downs.
There's no question closing Sackville Downs has a whole lot to do with it, but I don't know. In view of what the stakes are and what they're going to race for is 2-year-old and 3-year-olds, the prices should still be up. A lot of the trouble is, the way I see it, people got no place to train their horses.
Everyone was expecting an announcement would come Friday night. Tory MLA Mike Laffin was there, but only to buy horses.
Once the people who control the money, that have the bigger amount of money, that they get together and start a cash flow, produce some kind of a plan, I think they'll get the government assistance.
Until there's a new track, the lives of many people in this industry will be on a teeter-totter.
Well, I'll stay in the area until I find out whether a new track's been open, and if a new track's open, then I'll stay in the area. If not, I'll probably move out of it.
The highest price paid overall was for Knight's Key, a chestnut colt with a full brother that broke the record for 2-year-olds, pacing in 1:59 and 3. The night was definitely for the buyers. The losers, the breeders, didn't walk away feeling like it was their night. How much would you have spent on Reb Shag Angela to get her here, to breed her, to get her here, and then...
Oh, possibly 2,500.
So you've lost about 22.
Yeah, I lost about 22. So you don't stay in business too long that way, do you?
Everybody's a little scared of the industry now, so, you know, when you buy a colt, you're looking at a year and a half, 2 years maybe, before he goes to the races. It's quite a gamble, and there's only so many people take that kind of a gamble. Yeah. But the racing industry is not done. Everybody is downgrading it, but I think we should be upgrading it.
And so the buyers leave happy, but still concerned about the lack of a track in the Maritime's largest metropolitan area, where they can race their purchases for big money. This is Paul Meunier for At the Track.
Time now once again to look at action around the Maritimes from last week, but before we do, we'll go to Lexington, Kentucky, where Rumpus Hanover, owned by Ian Smith of Montague, Prince Edward Island, became the world champion 2-year-old pacing colt with a mile of 1:52 3/5, and we offer our congratulations to Ian for this great 2-year-old's performance. Around the Maritime tracks, first to Fredericton, the $4,125 freshman pacing saga went to Dalton Camp in 2:05 1. Quickest mile on that program, however, was Valinda Pinder in 2:02. Over to Charlottetown, where despite the fact the interim race secretary Kevin Gallant also reads the weather, they can't come up with a good fast track. The quickest mile, Horton Miller in 2:06. At Champlain Raceway, HB's Folly 2:01 1. The Papermaker 2:01 3, and Oro Guy in 2:01 4. Over to Truro on the weekend, a super program, the quickest mile, Paris Dexter, continues his amazing performance, 1:59 2. Then the 3-year-old pacing fillies, this is the Atlantic Sire Stakes, A Division, Hidden Intentions, and Charlotte's Reward, both in 2:03 3. Top drivers, first to Fredericton. 4 wins for Steve Mahar, 2 each for Bobby Stevenson and Wally Hennessy. At Charlottetown, 2 each for Vaughn Doyle, Merrill McLean, and Paul McDonald. At Truro, 2 wins each for Dave Pinkney, Carl Bagnall, and Keith Doyle. And at Champlain Raceway, 3 wins for Marcel Berrio, 2 each for Danny Romo and Gary McDonald. Well, Stan Bergstein back with us once again, and he's going to talk about the important role played in harness racing by a veterinarian, not only in coming in and taking a look at what is wrong with a horse, but in preventive medicine. Here's the story of a veterinarian with Stan Bergstein.
The doctor is in, and he is always in at the racetrack, where he makes house calls constantly, inasmuch as his patients can't very well visit him in his office. Dr. Peter Cassidy typifies the track veterinarian and is going to tell us and show us a little bit about how his practice works.
Since we have to, as Stan said, bring ourselves to our patients, we have to bring with us what we need to treat them. We've equipped our car with an assortment of different medications that are needed in daily treatment of animals. We are here to look at a horse who lacerated a foot training, and another horse who had trained and did not come up to par, and the trainer feels that we should take a look at his throat, so we brought a fiber optic scope with us. So what we're going to do is perform a endoscopic or laryngoscopic exam using a flexible fiber optic scope. We're going to pass it up the horse's nostril and look down his trachea to see if there's any evidence of hemorrhage. They don't tend to mind the flexible scopes as much as they did the old rigid metal ones. We'll pass it up his nostril, take a look at the inside of his throat to see if there's any signs of any pathology or evidence of disease. And then we'll pass it through his larynx down into his trachea and get a fairly good view of the windpipe and the bronchi to see if there's any evidence of hemorrhage. This horse isn't bleeding. There probably could be other reasons why the horse is not is tailing off at the end of the mile. Might be a lameness problem, or just maybe generally just poor condition. This is a horse that just trained, and the horse happened to catch a quarter and cut his coronary band fairly good. It's not a very deep gash. It's just surface, but there's a lot of vessels in this area, and he hemorrhaged quite a bit. It looks like this pressure wrap should be able to control that, and the horse should be all right. Doesn't require any sutures or stitches. The role of the veterinarian at the racetrack is basically threefold. One is routine vaccinations and deworming, and insurance exams for mortality insurance. The rest of our time basically is spent doing diagnostic lameness work, trying to find out where horses are lame. And then some of our other work is, of course, routine veterinary care with antibiotics for infections and vitamins therapy to pick up a horse whose condition is poor. We have basically a lot of medications that we dispense in the car, and we bring our wares to our patients.
It was an action-packed weekend last weekend at Truro Raceway. More than $33,000 in purse money up for grabs. The features there on the weekend: Atlantic Sire Stakes for 3-year-old pacing colts and 3-year-old pacing fillies. They also honored 5 pioneers of the sport. Clary Nicholson, Frank Daniels, Herb Weisner, Martin Brophy, and Jack Washington were all singled out. The big feature on Sunday, the Atlantic Sire Stakes 3-year-old pacing colts. Paul Meunier chatted with the winning driver.
The Atlantic Sire Stakes for 3-year-old colts was won by Bay River Chip in 2 minutes and 1/5 of a second. Owner Bertin Cormier took 45% of the $8,500 purse. Horton Thunder finished second, P.H. Britton third. Winning driver was Dave Pinkney.
This horse has won, I believe, 9 out of 10 now, I believe. And he won quite a few Sire Stakes. He's won a couple of them 2-1, and he's got around 25,000 made this year, I think, in around 10 starts. So he's won for nearly stake ahead of me, and all but one, I think. Yeah, this was a pretty strong field of colts. Well, the best we had here, I'd say, for a while, for a whole field of colts. You know, they all can go around 2-2 at least. You know, it's a nice, great field of colts. My strategy for leaving the gate, I figured Marcel had a good leaving horse, and if I could stick close to him, and I thought Soupy's horse would probably go to the front, and I'd have to move early and I'd take it from there if I could. And that's the way it worked out, and I was lucky. I had the 7-hole, which is trailing the 1 horse out, which was a good post position because there was a good horse on the rail. And I followed him out and I set right in the 2-hole or 3-hole, and we hit the 5/8, and I moved him there. And went the rest of the way out. And he finished strong and got home free.
It was an outstanding year for the Atlantic Sire Stakes program. Maple Grove Shadow set the first 2-minute mile by a 3-year-old. Kilkerran Direct set a maritime record for 3-year-old pacing colts in 1:58.1. The first 2-minute mile by a 2-year-old was turned in by Overnight Storm. The record for 3-year-old trotters of 2:03 was set by Dunmore Tweed. The Atlantic Sire Stakes program wraps up with the 3-year-old trotters in Charlottetown October 11th, 3-year-old fillies in Truro October 12th, and 2-year-old trotters in Charlottetown October 9th, and in Truro October 29th. This is Paul Meunier for At the Track.
One of the most interesting things around the Maritimes this season has been winning streaks. Earlier, you heard the interview with Bay River Chip's driver. That was a 3-year-old who went on a tear early in the season before coming down with an injury, and again, he's rounding back into form. Another horse in the same category, the Papermaker, owned by Ron McClellan's R.G. McGroot stable of Bathurst. He paced the Moncton track in 1:58.3, and he went down with an injury. But he's back in true form, as you'll see in this race.
Captivator racing for Stone Riggs El Patron moving 5. He's the trailer. They swing by the opening quarter, 29.3. Off the turn, down the stretch in front of the stand for the first time. The Papermaker out in front on the outside. Now moves to the rail, opens a length and a quarter. Worthy Gift into Night Hunter racing 3. Captivator moving 4, racing 5, and trailing the field. That's Stone Riggs El Patron. They go to the turn now for the half. It's the Papermaker, a length and a quarter out in front. Over Worthy Gift with Night Hunter on the rail in 3, and at the half, 101. In along the rail, Captivator Racing 4. Moving 5, Stone Riggs El Patron. They go to the back stretch for the final time. The Papermaker still out in front, leading by a length. Worthy Gift is 2, and out of 4. Now Racing 3 on the outside. That's Captivator, Night Hunter on the rail 4. Stone Riggs El Patron moves 5. They go to the turn for the final time. The Papermaker by 3/4 of a length. Captivator on the outside. 3/4 and 132. Round the turn for the final time. The Papermaker still out in front. Captivator on the outside too. Worthy Gift is on the rail. All horse and no place to go at the 7/8. They swing for home. Night Hunter tips 3 wide. They charge on down the stretch. That's the Papermaker. Worthy Gift is up on the outside. Stone Riggs El Patron. They come to the wire. The Papermaker, Worthy Gift. That's the Papermaker.
Your stake races of the Atlantic season goes tomorrow at Truro Raceway, an estimated purse of $12,000. It's the lofty Hardy Memorial for 3-year-old pacing colts. At Charlottetown, Atlantic Sires Stakes at the CDP next week. 2-year-old trotters in action on Thursday, and on Saturday, the 3-year-old trotters. And also next Saturday, the Duck Acorn for 3-year-old pacers. At Fredericton, only 2 more programs remain, this Thursday and next Monday. That's Thanksgiving Day. Then it's all over for 1986. At Champlain Raceway, tonight is Fan Appreciation Night. Special reduced prices in effect throughout the building. Well, our show next week will take a look at one of the most promising drivers in Atlantic Canada. We'll also have a look at the lofty Hardy Memorial as our feature race, and we'll show you how a colt is prepared for a yearling sale. Until then, I'm Howie Trainer at the track.
At the Track has been brought to you by the Maritime Harness